Hello,
Hello, sir.
how are you?
I am doing great. What about you? So,
Couldn't be any better.
perfect. Lovely. So, welcome to our program. I'm just checking now. Do you read me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, I read you 5-2 as well. So,
Okay.
welcome to our program again, sir, and accepting our offer. And we are, before starting the program, we would like to kindly shortly introduce ourselves, and then I will leave floor to you, if I may.
Okay, absolutely.
Okay, perfect, sir. So, welcome to our program. I am Önder Meslekli, Airbus pilot from Turkey, and we continue to host the preeminent aviator all over the world.
Okay.
Today, our guest is Gianfranco Betting, if I correctly pronounce it, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Grab your coffee, relax, enjoy the live stream. So, moving to the pilot Olsam. The pilot Olsam is the pilot team, unique the pilot team, is a consultancy and a tele-training agency, providing flight training for the pilot training. So, having said that, don't forget to follow us, of course, Mr. Gianfranco as well. So, let's start with. Welcome again, sir.
Okay, merhaba. And,
Aha! Almost
and
perfect.
almost what? Oh, how about this? I aksamlar.
Oh my God, it's perfect. It's perfect,
That was
really,
good?
loud. Yeah, it's better than my Turkish, believe me.
Teşekkür ederim.
Thank you, sir. So, I would like to ask you, I would like to start with this small question. I know that everybody knows you better, but for those who didn't know you, can you shortly introduce yourself, sir?
Absolutely. First of all, it's a true honor for me to be remembered by you. Uh, I'm a follower of your page. After we established contact, I see that you're doing a sterling job into promoting aviation, into creating a smaller world by uniting people from different areas of the world that share in common this passion, this willingness to serve in this magical industry. On a personal note, I love Turkey. I've been to Istanbul 3 times. I had an incredible time in these 3 visits. First one was a tourist. I just loved Istanbul. I took my wife along with me. We had 5 wonderful days. The second and third ones were for different reasons. Actually, I've been to Turkey 4 times. The second and third, I went to do a flight check on Turkish Airlines. So the second time I flew on a A340, Juliet, India, and I flew from my native Brazil, Sao Paulo, non-stop to Istanbul. The third visit, I flew one of the back then, brand new 777-300ERs. And I was very lucky to find a friend that flies for Turkish Airlines, or used to fly for Turkish Airlines, Captain Hockey. He is a former safety captain for TAM Airlines in Brazil, and he was flying with me that night. So that was very, very interesting. And on the fourth time, I went in 2017 to bid farewell to the old Ataturk Airport, which in my opinion was one of the best airports in the world to do spotting. I just had a wonderful time there, 4 days taking pictures of airplanes in old airport in Istanbul. Wonderful country, wonderful people, wonderful food. I mean, I wish I could go more often to Istanbul. Now, answering to your question, who is this guy? Okay, my name is Gianfranco Betting, but people call me Panda, and I insist that you call me Panda too, which is more universal and easier to pronounce.
Why this is panda then? Is there
I
any
could
special?
I could tell you, but then I would have to kill you. No, because no, I mean, it was my first job. One day I returned from lunch. My boss looks at me and say, this guy, every day that he returns from lunch, he returns happy, with his belly full, happy as a panda. And everybody started laughing, and the nickname stuck. I love it, by the way. There's nothing wrong with that. So people call me Panda, and I started my life 57 years ago, born and raised in São Paulo, Brazil. From my family, from my father's side, came from Germany, from other side from Italy. So you can tell it's a very complicated mix. You got the severity of the German thinking, and the Italian, which is more easygoing and more artistic minded. But anyway, I was born and raised in Brazil, and the first three words that I ever said were Varig, 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 the name of the former Brazilian flag carrier. Why? Because I don't know why, but I've been fascinated by aviation since I was a kid. At the very tender age of 10, I met the founder of Transbrasil Airlines, which was a domestic Brazilian carrier. Back then it was domestic, but it's probably best remembered by the rainbow colors on its tails. And they flew 727s and 767s. To cut a long story short, the founder of this airline raised me as the son that he didn't have. He had 4 daughters, but no sons. So he grabbed me by the hand and took me along with him, taking me to air shows, taking me to factories, having me sitting behind him in very important meetings, taking me to get to know very important people throughout the industry. And I was a teenager. And I was like pinching myself and saying, this can't be happening to me. Why me? Why was I chosen to be following very closely the footsteps of this true pioneer of Brazilian aviation? So it eventually turned out that I went to work for Transbrasil, and at the tender age of 12, he came to me one day. He was the founder of the airline, but a very accomplished pilot. He was a great aviator. He had the hand and foot. It was natural for him. One of the best pilots in Brazil, no questions asked, I mean, for sure. But then he came to me and said, well, I know that you like to draw airplanes. If you come up with color combinations that I like, I may eventually paint one aircraft in the color combinations that you suggest. And that happened.
God. Really?
Yeah. Tango, this particular one, Tango Yankee Papa, was painted in the colors that I suggested, because back then Transbrasil was like Braniff. Every airplane had a different color scheme. So I created actually 2. So this is just another one, just to show that the colors were really different. So every airplane had a color combination. And you can only imagine, at the tender age of 12, I could tell to my buddies at school, saying, hey, I painted that aircraft. And people would go, oh,
and nobody believed that.
People would go, oh, you're so full of crap. I mean, how come? And then eventually they realized I was friends with the founder of the airline. Okay, anyway, I grew up around him. I grew up around the airline, and I could not become a pilot because I had a severe eye limitation. I have a very deep myopia. And I couldn't be, back then, I couldn't be a pilot, which was my lifelong dream, and still is to this day. Sometimes I dream that I'm a captain of a commercial transport. I like military aviation, but my passion truly is commercial aviation. But then again, I grew up around him. I couldn't be a pilot. I ended up working in advertising, in marketing, and then I started to work for Transbrasil for the airline as responsible for advertising for the airline, then marketing director, then eventually vice president of Transbrasil. After that, I started my own company. I left in 1997, started my own company, which was doing advertising. Then I said, you know what? I don't want to sell soap or life insurance anymore. I just want to work with aviation.
Yeah.
So I started a small company that was doing marketing for aviation. That's when there was a knock on the door. A common friend said, there's a American guy wanting to start an airline in Brazil. I said, wow, all right. Do you want to talk to him? I said, yeah, sure. Why not? So he knocks on my door. I open it. It's David Neeleman, the founder of JetBlue Airways.
Uh-huh.
He was knocking at my door. I opened. He entered, and he said, you got 45 minutes to show your guns, to show why would you work for us. 5 hours later, he said, you know what? We should work together. You should be our marketing director. And I became the first employee of Azul Brazilian Airlines. So the airline was founded and started in my own house back in Brazil. And it was in my house that the airline operated for its first 3 months. So it was an incredible time because I was responsible for creating the name, the brand, the uniforms, every visual aspect of Azul. And then I became marketing director, and then culture director, and then in-flight service director, communications director, and I was involved very deeply in the Azul Brazilian Airlines project. I felt like it was an incredible journey. Very happy to do that. And that lasted for 8 years when I called it quits and decided to move with my family to America. And here we are, living in Miami, working as a consultant before the pandemic hit, I was working as a consultant for a few airlines and a few other companies non-related to aviation. Most of the consultancy for aviation is gone. I mean, the clients suspended the contract, of course, due to pandemic. And in this period, I created deliveries of Amazonas, the airline from Bolivia, and also I created special projects for Top Air Portugal. You probably remember the A330 that had the retro livery.
Mm-hmm.
I designed that, and I also designed a very colorful, I got it here, a very colorful A330 that was called the Portugal Stopover. So, and after that, I left TAP about 2 years ago, and I came back to the US here to Miami, and I started working with David Neeleman on another project, which is his new airline called Breeze. Mm-hmm. So I created the name, the brand, the logo, the livery of the aircraft. It's a lot of fun. It's incredible. A lot of fun would be a very mild way to put it. It's incredible to work with David Neeleman. I love to work with this guy. I love to work with his team. There's always something interesting happening going on. So that's how I stand today. I'm collaborating with the launch of David Neeleman's new airline. Other than that, I'm a diehard spotter. I have 770,000 images, and I'm still doing them.
This is the one of the topic that I would like to put my finger on it. I have a question about that because we have some close spotter friends that know you, and they would like to ask some question actually.
Absolutely, let's go. So I'm a crazy spotter. I go to places to photograph airplanes. Because I work in the industry for such a long time, I was able to travel a lot. I did 7 round the world trips. I visited 116 countries, including North Korea, and I went there to do plane spotting.
How was it? How was it? Please.
Oh man, we could do a live just to talk about North Korea. It was absolutely fascinating because it was not only just spotting. We were able to fly almost every type of aircraft operated by Air Koryo. Ilyushin 18, Ilyushin 62, Ilyushin 76, Tupolev 134, 154, 204, Antonovs. It was amazing. It was absolutely incredible. That was 6 years ago. Incredible. Just fascinating. But also, I write books about aviation. So I'm now writing my book number 16. I published 15 already. All about the history of aviation, or airlines, or aircraft types. So the next book is going to be about a Brazilian defunct airline called VASP. And
The
it's
first one
going
goes for jets, right? The first
Jet,
book of
yes.
you, just yeah,
Jet was my first book, published
in
16 years.
2005.
16 years
2005.
ago, exactly. And it's a book that tells the history of the jet manufacturers told by its products. So I talk about Boeing, talking the history of the 707, 727, 737, 747. Then I talk about McDonnell Douglas, and then about Airbus, Embraer, Bombardier, Fokker. And I try to put the stories clashing, saying the 707 was the nemesis of the DC-8. So the DC-10 was flying against the TriStar. So it was the first book. And just to tell you how crazy I am, I sold my car. I sold my car, grabbed the money, and that's how I published my first book. Because no editing company was interested in aviation books. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna finance it. So I had to sell my car. I grabbed the money, paid for the book, and my wife was like, what you doing? Why you're selling the family's car? And I'm selling the family car because I want to publish a book. I said, yeah, a book won't take us to the supermarket or to whatever we want to go. I said, well, yeah, I know, but you got your car, so whatever, we'll make do. So I mean, that pretty much tells how focused, how passionate I am about aviation. So
yeah, so it really sounds great, and we are talking about almost 40-year experience. It's really a lot. It's really a lot. We can talk about lots of things. Really, I mean, I have a bunch of questions. I will continue to do so. So, I mean, with this fascinating, the admiration, or it seems that you really totally, fully dedicated yourself to the aviation, as I understand. And of course, for that reason, I would like to ask you, how do you describe yourself? Have you ever have some doubt, or do you have any wish list, let's say? I mean, but I'm trying to say you have already spent almost 40 years in aviation, right? So how do you find yourself in the moment that you have reached now? What do you think?
I feel very fortunate because I firmly believe that aviation is a magical industry. I mean, one day I'm having breakfast in my house in Brazil. The next day I'm having dinner in Istanbul. I'm strolling through the beautiful views of the Shiragan Hotel, or going to the Galata Tower to see a beautiful music show there. And I eat the wonderful Turkish food. That's magic. I mean, what other industry allows you to wake up in Paris, sleep in New York, have breakfast in Tokyo, and dinner in Frankfurt or Istanbul or Rome? That's pure magic. But then you can say, oh no, that's because the airplane flies at 38,000 feet at 900. I know that. That's physics. But there's this component, there's this part that's purely magical. You blink an eye, you doze off for 2 hours, and then you wake up and say, well, I'm in Istanbul. So for instance, last time I visited Istanbul, I was in Frankfurt, and I caught a flight, Lufthansa. I flew Lufthansa to Istanbul. Within 2 hours, the world changes. What could be more contrasting than Germany and Turkey? And they're 2 hours apart.
Yeah,
so that's fascinating. And I only consider myself fortunate to have chosen this industry, to have met the people I met, to have visited the places I visit, and to have sampled so many cultures, so many flights, so many different airplane types, to have witnessed the sunrise through the windows of jet airplanes in over 9,000 hours that I have flown. So, and there's another thing, I get paid for doing all this. So
this is the small differences, yeah.
not a lot, but I can't complain either. I was able
Yeah.
to raise my family. I'm still able to pay the rent. So when I think back, I can only think with gratitude and also with some amazement, because I normally we meet people that only work to make ends meet, people that will work to pay for their bills, right? Not too
Yeah.
many people in the world can say, I really work with something that I love. And that's my case. And I know it's your case too. And guess what? It's mostly the case of everybody that works in this industry. There are other jobs that pay better than aviation. There are many, many other jobs that will let you be with your family, with your loved ones in the special dates, not aviation. It's very common for us that work in this industry to spend birthdays, special dates, Christmas time, big party time away from home, away from our loved ones. It's tough. I mean, I spent countless nights alone in hotels in distant, far-flung places of the world. And guess what? At the very bottom of my heart, I was always happy, because this is a very, very incredible profession. And looking back, I wouldn't change a thing. Well, I would change one thing. I would have become a pilot if I could, but now it's too late.
So let's make it. I mean, I know that you have already flown 7 times around the world, and with more than 150 aircrafts, you know, and with more than 200 airline company. So, but you know what? We have one school in Miami. Maybe we will make you fly there, if you are interested with a small plane, of course.
Absolutely, always. It will be a pleasure.
So be ready. I will arrange for you.
All right. Fair enough.
Perfect. So, I mean, when we are talking about aviation, actually, the most of the people think that this is just the, I mean, this is the pilot population. Actually, this is not. We are just the one of the chain of the big chain, let's say. I mean, we have lots of precious and outstanding, our team, let's say, members that we are all operating together, actually. For being a pilot, of course, we can discuss it's another domain, of course, but in the end of the day, we are all aviator. And really, when it comes to the aviation, when you talk that it's this, we are talking about success story now, and we are talking about fully dedication. So this is almost everywhere work is a same motivation source, let's say.
Say again.
It's very little. It is. Do you read me?
Yes, I didn't
Okay,
understand
perfect.
the question.
No. I'm just giving a
Oh,
comment
okay.
what you
Okay.
have said, but I will back to the question now.
Okay.
So I am backing to the question that we are very interested with you because, as I told you, you're a great, successful, kind of success story for the youngest aviator. We are talking about almost 40 years experience. So how did you feel? We have already talked about your aviation, when the aviation life starts and how we talked about that. But what I would like to ask, when you step in a professional way to Transbrasil, when you applied, I mean, when you assigned, how do you feel? How did you feel?
Well, um, I would answer to this in two steps. When I first had my first, let's say, the first contact with Transbrasil, which was to design the colors of this airplane, I was a 12-year-old kid. So everything was fascinating. Everything was beyond any imaginable dream. I mean, a boy that was already in love with aviation is approached by the president of one airline and say, draw an airplane. If you do it right, I'm going to paint this airplane. So I felt really mesmerized by it. But when the time came to really start a professional life in the airline industry, that was a very short notice call. The founder of the airline, Captain Fontana, called me and said, let's have dinner tomorrow. I said, okay. And I was 25 years old back then. And over dinner, he said, I want you to work for me. I want you to take care of our in-house advertising agency. And you're going to be responsible for creating every advertising piece for the group. And I looked at him and said, wow, I'm just 25. I never run any business. Do you think I'm ready for it, Captain? I always called him Captain Fontana. I said, by all means. And if you don't, I'm going to help you out. So I felt the urge to say yes to something that was a big challenge, but I felt incredibly excited by the prospect of finally working in the airline industry full-time. Because before I was working in advertising, which is something that I like to do to this day, but it's different. I mean, advertising is a profession. Aviation is a vocation. Professions we choose, vocations choose us. So I don't think that you chose aviation. I think that aviation chose you, Captain. Probably before you realize it, there was something calling to the very heart of Captain Onda and saying, come to aviation, come to aviation. It's like when you become a religious person. It's not only a logical decision. There's something that pulls you in. And my impression is that religion and aviation have this very same point of contact, which is aviation pulls us. We gravitate towards aviation. It's not only a logical decision. Yes, of course, I met people that further down their lifespans one day said, well, you know what, I'm going to be a flight attendant. I'm going to make my living and become a pilot. I want to be an engineer. I want to be a mechanic. But for me, what I find to be really, really the common link between everyone in this industry is that there is this internal urge, the internal calling to become part of aviation. So that is what I really think it makes this industry stand apart from many different others.
Yeah, it's true. One of our followers says that aviation is in our DNA.
Yes, I can see here, Mr. Paul Henrik. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's in the blood.
And meanwhile, let's say hello to Russia, Sweden, and Brazil, and Portugal, of course, Turkey and the USA as well. And they are just sending their regards while we are talking that I would like to underline. And moving to the next question, before moving to the next question, I would like to re-announce that for those who missed the first part of this live stream, it's going to be published in the Instagram page of us and user, I believe, and our YouTube channel as well. So you can follow after the broadcast from Pilotosam and Panda Betting accounts. Okay, so moving back to the question, and again we are talking about the big range of time, right? 40 years, almost 40 years. So what is the main differences between, for instance, the 90s and nowadays? What do you see?
The 90s, about about 30 years ago, or 80s. The main difference is that back then aviation was pretty much a controlled industry. Throughout the world, in the 80s and early 90s, this industry was controlled by governments. So competition was controlled, airlines were subsidized, markets were dominated by few players. There was nothing like free competition and free opportunity. That started to change with the American deregulation that really opened up in 1978 and then spread throughout the world. That led to a lot of dramatic changes. So well-established carriers disappeared or were bought or merged into new entities. Aviation became a more democratic way of transport. Millions and millions of people started to be able to afford intercontinental air travel. So aviation became something that the world, by far and large, was able to pay for and use. And that totally changed the industry. Long gone are the days where caviar and champagne and personalized service were something to a very few people that could afford it. Now aviation all over the world is something that is affordable. So that is basically what I really think it made all the difference. And that's for the better, because this industry really will find better days ahead as long as more people fly more often to more places, and that will allow more types, more jobs, more connections with people from different parts of the world. Because at the very end of the day, I mean, we in the aviation industry, we love not only to arrive, but we love the journey. What we love the most is not getting there. It's
very true.
Right? But for the rest of the humanity, they only take airplanes because they want to go places. And that's a very fundamental part of aviation, is to take people places, is to make products and travel and go to different markets and unite different cultures and bring down the social, the cultural barriers between people, between countries, between cultures, between religions. So aviation, for me, it's sacred, because aviation is the tool that God, if you believe in it, created to unite people. You can say, wow, internet does the same. Yes, but it's different. I mean, I can read about Turkey, but if I stroll down the center of Istanbul, or if I see a boat cruising by the Bosphorus at night, and I see the bridges and the lights, and if I enter Hagia Sophia and go and look up, that's mesmerizing. And what brought me there is aviation.
Yeah, of course. I mean, this is always the feeling, the pulse on the ground is always work in a different way, for sure. Yeah. I mean, last month I were in Tanzania. Actually, I went to some national park in Mikumi. I used to saw them, up to now in Discovery Channel. But when I see with my eyes, it was mind blowing, and it's really crazy. So, talking about the change, of course, everything is changed. The only thing that didn't change is change. So, so the media is changed. The marketing strategies also change. So, talking about the change and this aviation experience, what is your favorite aviation movie?
If I had to pick one, probably the one that really changed my life, I mean, that really was mind-blowing, was Top Gun. But there's another movie that's not truly well-known, which is called Whiskey Romeo Zulu, which are the registration letters of an airplane that crashed in Buenos Aires in 1998. And that film, which is made in Argentina by a very talented director, Henrique Pinheiro, chronicles the story of this sad accident. But the funny thing is, Mr. Pinheiro was also a captain for the airline that suffered the accident, Lapa. So if you can, look for this picture called Whiskey Romeo Zulu, and you're gonna love it. But I can't help but say Top Gun was something that blew my mind. I saw it the first time in New York. I left the theater and my head was exploding, and I was like, what a great movie! Ah, the Tomcat! Ah! I see. I always loved. I loved the F-14, the Tomcat, so much that when my first son was born, guess what was the name that we picked for him? Thomas. So I could call him Tom Cat. That's his nickname.
Perfect. So, talking about Tom Cruise, it's definitely for, for those for specific age group, and even for now, Top Gun affects the people to become a pilot or aviator. For sure, this is a motivation source. So, back to the aviation. How aviation has affected your life, aside from dedication, about family, about the job procedures, time management?
Time. It was a blunt. It is a blunt, and it was before pandemic. I was doing on average 130 flights per year. So the blunt of that was the toll. The very heavy toll was over my family, because I was on the road probably 60% of my time. I was traveling. So one day my youngest kid came to me and said, "You don't know how difficult it is to be the son of a father that works in the aviation industry." And he really meant when he said that. And I took it, and on that very night I said, "Gee, I never thought about it." But it is what it is. I mean, there's always a price to pay. So my life was totally dominated, changed, and I paid the price. I mean, my personal health paid the price, because it's not easy to be on the road for such a continuous time.
Yes.
But I'm not complaining. I would pick that life once again. Not complaining.
Perfect. Perfect. So, and you are the best father. Sharon Petting is just writing.
Now,
Perfect.
she's the best mother, that's for sure.
So, we have talked about you round world trip flown 2004, more than 2,400, plus 200 airlines, plus 150 aircraft types, so on, so on. I am pretty sure that you have lots of stories to tell. What was, okay, just pick one that just come to your mind, which is mind-blowing, or what was the most interesting one? I would like to hear that.
Well, I think for the sake of answering that quickly, I would probably say that flying the Concorde was the most memorable thing. Also, I did something 2 years ago, actually in November 2019. I did my round the world trip number 7. And I specifically chose to fly the world's shortest flight, which lasts a minute and a half between 2 small islands in Scotland. And on that same trip, I flew the world's longest flight, which is the Singapore to New York. So that was absolutely fantastic, because not only I was doing a round the world trip, but on this round the world trip, I did the shortest and the longest flight. So that was absolutely incredible. But then I could do another live to tell you all the stories that I've witnessed in over 2,400 flights. I had great moments of watching how high the human spirit can go. I mean, it's very hard to single out one story, but I mean, I remember thousands of stories, because I have a memory designed for everything that is aviation, so I have them all by heart. But if I had to, I mean, when I die and the film of my life is shown in front of me, probably the Concorde will stand out, flying the Concorde.
It must be crazy. I mean, it must be a crazy experience, yeah?
Oh, better than sex.
Okay, nobody is listening to us, okay. So, back then, now I would like to make a deep dive for the spotter things because I
Sure.
already knew that you are a die-hard spotter. So, and take 770, 100,000 pictures in 40 years, and we are talking about 16 books. Oh my God, it's mind-blowing. So, do you have, I mean, how does it start and in time, how it's evaluated? I mean, I'm pretty sure that you see the change in time, you know. It just didn't start with then some small Nikon and then, you know, it's going in a way. Can you explain a little bit?
About what? About the evolution of the
About,
aircraft?
yeah, no, I mean to being a spotter. I would like to put my finger on being a spotter
Well,
because this is another domain, you know, and
yeah. I was a spotter well before I had my first camera. When I was a kid, I didn't know that what spotting was. So I said to myself, I need to register the airplanes that I see. So I took a piece of paper and a pen, and I was writing down the names of registrations and aircraft types that I was seeing. And that was when I was 9 years old. But then at the tender age of 16, I bought my first decent camera, starting photographing, and never looked back. What I can tell you is that digital changed everything, because before digital, you had to be very economic when it comes to choosing the what you were registering, because films were not in endless provision, and digital changed everything. But also, Flight Radar 24 changed a lot, because back in the good old days, you went to the airport knowing that you could expect aircraft, but you really didn't know what was coming, right? It could be a different model, it could be a special livery. So it had the suspense, it had this slightly feeling of something unexpected happening, and that was amazing. Now I see kids watching the Flight Radar and saying, oh, okay, I'm going to go tomorrow to the airport to capture this special livery or this particular tail number or this particular bizjet or airline that's coming tomorrow at 10:35. So they know, so they can prepare in advance. Back in the days, we were kind of crossing our fingers and say, oh, I just hope that the Thai 747 today is going to be the Royal Barge. And guess what? One day, she shows up and we go home like, yeah, I made it, I got it. So it was a lot of fun. Still is, but it was different.
yeah. Okay. I mean, let's make it a little bit more deep dive. I
Okay.
mean, I will ask you that do you like to, for instance, to make a picture in dynamic picture or static picture?
No, I take steady because I have to. For me, the pictures that I really love are action shots. I love to take images of airplanes in movement. I know that spotters like to do that 35 millimeter side on, registrations visible on the tarmac, full main gear aligned. That's okay, but that's like collecting stamps. I really love to see airplanes in operation, taking off, landing, approaching, different lights, angles, just crop on the nose or the wheels touching down. That's what makes my blood boil. I prefer action shots.
Yeah, perfect. So, what one of my friends told me that being a spotter is not that easy job actually, because you cannot. I'm sorry to say this, but you cannot make money easily just being a spotter. You need to do something side, you know.
Right.
So, in this, from driving these facts, what you would like to advise to young spotter?
Well, I would advise to start for starters. I would say that. I mean, you can try, but it's going to be very hard for you to make your life as a spotter, to pay the bills by being a spotter. But if you combine that with other profession, that probably will be the one that will pay the bills, pay for your camera, pay for your trips, for the hotels, for the rental cars. That would be great. But it's so much fun. I mean, my two kids, they're also spotters. So we travel together, and we have such a great time. I mean, last year, before the pandemic hit, there was an air show in Japan, and my kids had a good year at school, and I said, guess what? Here's a gift for you. We're gonna go for Japan for 3 days to see the air show. And we went there. So those 3 days felt like 3 months. It was so intense, so wonderful, so marvelous to be in Japan photographing F4 Phantoms in their farewell exhibition, that when we came back to our home here in the US, we were looking at each other and saying, I can't believe we did that. I can't believe we left home, went to Japan, spent 3 days there, and flew back. And again, that's what I was telling before. It's the magic of aviation. So spotting is not an easy job. You wake up in the wee hours of the morning, you have to move, police will chase you. I mean, you're gonna feel that you're thirsty, cold, you're gonna be simmering under the midday sun. I don't care. It's well worth the price. It's absolutely incredible. And the memories and the photos that you bring back and the friends that you make on the road are well worth the price.
I mean, this is the Istanbul spotter actually asked this question directly, and I would like to say hi to him now from here, and that's why I want to ask. So back then, now we came to the quick question, let's say section. Okay. We are trying to shoot the question, and you have, sir, if I may, just shoot what you would like to say in 5 seconds, okay?
Okay.
Just a quick question and a quick answer.
Done.
Perfect. Sao Paulo or Miami?
Sao Paulo.
Perfect. Why?
I was born there. That's my place.
Okay. So, okay. Football or basketball?
Football. Palmeiras, biggest club in Brazil.
You're a fan of Palmeiras?
Yes.
Perfect. Lovely. So let's navigate a little bit to Europe. Warsaw or Berlin?
Berlin, the capital of the country where my great-grandparents came.
Okay, perfect. So I don't want to ask this question, but we put it. I am pretty sure what you are going to answer. I know your answer, but I will ask sea or air?
What?
Sea or air?
Air. That was easy.
So, yeah, it's easy. Okay, Brazilian kitchen or Thai kitchen?
Brazilian.
Sir, you need to say Turkish kitchen. You have come to here 4 times, right?
Turkish kitchen is awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Perfect. So, talking about Turkish kitchen, baklava or donuts?
Baklava. Easy. 20 times.
Airbus or Boeing?
Boeing. I'm an
Boeing?
old school Boeing.
Sir, we do highly respect you, but side stick always work,
Airbus is just great, but I prefer Boeing.
Yeah. Okay. So, Nikon or Canon?
Nikon.
Nikon. Perfect. So this is the end of the quick question section, and I am turning back to the more serious issue now. Before starting the last section, because we have already overlapped now, the time, because we have planned almost 30 to 45 minutes, but this is really outstanding interview. I really like it, and if you let me talk and listen to you, I will listen to you till morning.
Me too.
And one of our followers said, if it's not Boeing, and
I ain't going.
I ain't going? No.
That's an old saying. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the old saying. So, before starting the last section, sir, I would like to make an announcement for those who missed this live stream. They can find after the live stream. We are going to advertise in our Instagram and YouTube page. Please do not forget to follow and subscribe Panda Betting YouTube and Instagram page, and Pilot Awesome YouTube and Instagram page. So let's continue then. Back to the aviation. after talking the personal experience and everything, we have an elephant in the room, right? So, which is called pandemic. So, how do you think the pandemic affects aviation, or how the effects in South America now, or America in USA?
Pandemic, well, it's something that divides aviation in the AP and VP, before and after pandemic. I mean, well, that has changed everything. The way that people relate to aviation, the number of airlines for flying, the early retirement of quad jets, our beloved 747s and A380s. So it has changed everything. It will keep on changing for the years to come. And it will happen just like every time where the difficulties are really abundant, only the strong will survive. I mean, it will function as a rite of passage where the least prepared carriers, operators, manufacturers will flounder, and the less capable ones will keep on going, even though nobody's gonna go through this without many scars, and tough days are still ahead.
Okay, I mean, depending on your experience, for instance, if you were the one that, let's say, who is about to start your aviation career, let's say being a pilot, will you start your career now? What do you think?
If you have the funds that will allow you to pursue that, I would certainly say that you should, even though the years ahead will be very challenging, because there is already a glut of a much higher number of capable pilots and other functions within the industry that are available for an industry that's fundamentally smaller after the pandemic hit. So there's a lot of capable, trained, and experienced people out there. If you're really starting now, you need to consider this, that the cycle between you getting or becoming, say, a pilot or a mechanic or a flight attendant will be longer for you to have a seat or to be hired by an airline or manufacturer or any other job in the industry. So don't give up, but you need to have an extra dose of patience. You need to understand that you're jumping in very very difficult waters as we speak. It's not. It has never been easy. Now it's even harder. But don't give up. Don't give up. If that is your call, if that is your dream, go after it. Go after it.
Do you know our quote, sir? We used to say, don't postpone your dreams, spread your wings, and become a pilot. Yeah, this is always good to pursue the dreams. The bad days, there will be, of course, the fluctuation all the times. Like you can see in Israel curve, there's some peaks and down and so on, so on. But just residing yourself in this curve is depending on timing, of course, and that it is crystal clear that it will not be night all the time. The sun will rise.
Eventually.
Aviation.
Yes.
Yeah.
As it always does.
Yeah. So I would like to ask you one last question, if I may.
Absolutely.
So, what will be your advice for young aviators?
Work with something that you really love and you'll never work again. If aviation is your call, if aviation is something that's very deep within your heart and mind and soul, don't think twice. Just go for it. Eventually, it will pay off to follow that profession. As we said before, it's very demanding. It can be cruel at times, but nothing beats the feeling of being able to lay your head in your pillow and say, you know what? I spent my day working with something that I love. Nothing beats that. And aviation is where many, many, many dreams take off. So go for it, without a doubt.
Thank you, sir. And this is the last question that we have filtered actually. Thanks for your sharing time with us. And if I may, I would like to close the program after hearing your last words for the interview. Then I will make a last announcement as we used to do. And if I may, floor is yours, sir.
Okay, wow, Tessekura Dream. It has been wonderful, wonderful being remembered by you, being in contact with such a gracious host, to be able to dedicate some time to get to know, discuss, and remember, reminisce a little bit of my career, and also to get to know new friends. I hope that when I next visit Istanbul, we're gonna have a baklava together.
You are on me.
All right, that's it enough. So it was, no, truly, it was really wonderful. I cannot thank you enough, and I wish you and all the pilots and all the people that work in aviation throughout Turkey and the region all the very best. And we should remember, aviation is something that brings people together. So we should work to bring down the barriers of culture, of language, of religion, and imagine that we can live in a better world. And aviation is a big part for that.
So, sir, thank you again, and it's a great interview. I would like to thank you by heart. And if you have a chance to come to Turkey, more than welcome. You know, I will take you to the best baklava place, promise.
Deal.
Deal. Okay. So we used to close our program with our co-founder of the founder of Turkish Republic, Atatürk's quote, actually. So as he said, the future is in the skies. So we are in this, we will be in the skies as much as we can, regardless from any pandemic or any problem, we will be in the skies. So I would like to thank my team as well, because we are almost 20 pilots who is making the pilot, let's say this is Pilot Olsam team, for IT issues, for the connections and everything. I would like to thank them too. And I wish you very good day, and thanks again, sir.
Güle güle.
Bye.
Bye-bye.